You have not missed it. I need you to hear that before I say anything else today, because I believe it is the sentence you most need and the sentence you are least likely to believe right now. You have not missed your breakthrough. It has not passed you by while you were not paying attention. It has not been redirected to someone who prayed harder or believed longer or deserved it more. It is coming. And the reason it has not arrived yet is not because it is late. It is because it is right on time, on a schedule that was set before you were born, by a God who does not miscount days and does not miscalculate seasons and does not look at a clock and realize he has forgotten someone. He has not forgotten you. The breakthrough is not late. You simply have not yet arrived at the moment it was designed to meet you. I know what you are carrying right now. I know the specific weight of a person who has been believing for something for a long time without seeing it. I know the particular exhaustion of continued faith, the kind that does not look like exhaustion from the outside, because you are still showing up, still praying, still doing everything you know how to do, but that feels from the inside, like running on a road that does not seem to be getting any shorter. I know what it is to watch other people receive the thing you have been praying for while you are still waiting for yours. I know what it is to have a faith that is genuine and a God that is real and a promise that you are certain of. And to still be standing at the edge of the receiving with your hands open and your heart tired and your certainty flickering in ways you would never admit to anyone who asked how you were doing. I know. And I want to speak into that specific place today, not with comfort that is designed to make the waiting more tolerable, but with truth that is designed to change the way you understand what the waiting actually is. The truth I want to give you today is this. The breakthrough that has not yet arrived in your life is not running behind schedule. It is running on a schedule you cannot see from inside your own story. And the reason you cannot see it is not that the schedule does not exist, but that the perspective required to see it is not available from inside the waiting. You need a higher vantage point than the one the waiting provides. And that is what I want to give you today. Not a promise that the waiting will end soon, though it may. Not a guarantee that the breakthrough is days away, though it might be. But a perspective that makes the waiting bearable in a way it has not been bearable before. Because it connects what feels like delay to what is actually the most precise and the most personally calibrated timing that any human being has ever experienced. The timing of a God who knows the exact moment you will be ready for what He has prepared. I was 34 years old when I learned the difference between a late breakthrough and a right-on-time breakthrough. And the lesson came in a form I would not have chosen, and through a season I would not have wished on anyone I cared about. Our church had grown, but it had grown to a point where the growth itself had revealed something in me that the previous years of simply building had kept hidden. The growth had exposed with remarkable precision the specific areas of character and capacity in me that were not yet adequate for what the growth was asking of me. I had been praying for the ministry to grow. I had been believing for it. I had been working toward it. And when it grew, I discovered that the man who had prayed for the growth was not yet the man who could sustain it without significant damage to himself and to the people he was leading. And God, in what I now recognize as the most specifically loving act of pastoral care I have ever personally received, began a process of slowing things down, of creating a gap between the pace of the growth and the pace of my interior development, that felt from the inside like the ground stopping under my feet and from the outside like nothing had changed at all. In that season, a man I respected greatly, a man who had walked with God for decades longer than I had, said something to me that I want to give to you today as the frame for everything else I am going to say. He said, "David, the breakthrough you are waiting for is not waiting for God. It is waiting for you. And when you are ready, it will not come slowly. It will arrive all at once the way dawn arrives, not gradually but suddenly. After the long darkness of the night has done what the long darkness of the night was there to do." I want to tell you what that man meant. Because I think the sentence sounds simple, and it is not simple at all. It is one of the most demanding truths in the entire experience of faith. What he meant was not that the breakthrough is conditional on your worthiness. It is not. Grace is not conditional. What he meant was that there is a version of the answered prayer that can arrive before the person who receives it is ready to hold it well, and that when that version arrives early, before the readiness, it does not produce the outcome that was prayed for. It produces a version of the outcome that the unready person mishandles in ways that sometimes cause more damage than the absence of the breakthrough would have caused. And God, who can see both the breakthrough and the version of you that will receive it, sometimes holds the breakthrough until the version of you that he can see coming is the version that will be able to carry what is inside it. I want to give you the 3 most important truths I know about right-on-time breakthroughs, because I believe each of them is going to reach a specific place in the person who is listening to this message today. A place that needs to be reached before the waiting can be carried, the way it needs to be carried. The first truth is this: right-on-time breakthroughs always look late from the inside. This is not a coincidence. It is by design, and understanding why it is by design is the thing that makes the difference between a person who gives up in the waiting and a person who does not. If a breakthrough arrived at the moment you first began to expect it, before the full weight of the waiting had done its work in you, you would receive it as confirmation of something you already believed, that God answers prayer and that your faith works and that the Christian life operates according to a predictable cause and effect that you can more or less calculate your way through. And while none of that is wrong, it is also not the deepest thing. The deepest thing is not a God who answers quickly and keeps your faith comfortable. The deepest thing is a God whose faithfulness is proven precisely in the seasons when his timing confounds your understanding. When the prayer has been prayed and the faith has been exercised and the work has been done, and the answer still has not come, and you choose to believe anyway. That choice, the choice to believe in the face of the evidence rather than because of it, is the specific kind of faith that changes a person in ways that instantaneous answers cannot change them. And the breakthrough that arrives after that kind of faith has been forged in a person lands differently than any other kind of breakthrough can land. It lands in a person who has been changed by the waiting into someone who can receive it without being destroyed by it, without being inflated by it, without losing their grounding in the God behind it, rather than the gift itself. I think of Abraham, who was given a promise at 75 years old and waited 25 years for its fulfillment. 25 years, not 25 days, not 25 weeks, 25 years. During which the evidence against the promise accumulated with every passing season, with every year of his wife's continued barrenness, with every logical reason to conclude that the promise had simply been mistaken, or misheard, or was meant for someone else. 25 years of choosing, every single morning, to believe something that the evidence of every single day was working against. And what arrived after those 25 years was not merely a son. What arrived was the proof that faith could outlast evidence. What arrived was the specific kind of trust in God that only 25 years of choosing to believe against the odds could have produced. Abraham at 100 years old was not the same man who had received the promise at 75. He was someone the 25 years had made, and the son who came was the son of the man the 25 years had made, not the man who had first received the promise. The breakthrough was not late. It was right on time for the man Abraham had become. The second truth is this: the breakthrough is usually closer than it feels in the season just before it arrives. I want to say this carefully because I am aware of how hollow a statement like this can feel to a person who has been hearing versions of it for years, without seeing the promised proximity materialize. I am not telling you that your breakthrough is imminent. I cannot know that. What I am telling you is something that I have observed, with a consistency that I can no longer attribute to coincidence, in the lives of people I have walked with, through long seasons of waiting. The period just before the breakthrough almost always feels like the furthest point from it. The darkness is deepest just before the dawn. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is an observed pattern in the way God's timing works, and I believe the reason it is consistently true is not arbitrary but specific. The period just before the breakthrough is the period of the final test of the faith that the breakthrough requires. It is the moment when everything in the natural world is saying this is not going to happen, and the person who keeps believing anyway, in that specific moment, in the face of that specific evidence, completes something in themselves that the breakthrough needed them to complete before it could arrive without harming them. I think of a woman who came to me in what she described as the worst week of a 3-year wait for a restoration she had been believing God for. She had been praying for 3 years for a broken marriage to be healed, for a husband who had walked away to return. She had done everything she knew how to do. She had prayed with consistency. She had sought counseling. She had worked on herself. She had changed in ways that were real and visible and acknowledged by everyone who knew her. And in this particular week, the worst week, her husband had told her he had made a decision that seemed to close the final door on the possibility of the restoration she had been praying for. She came to me not sure whether to keep praying or to accept what the circumstances were saying and release the hope she had been carrying. And I want to tell you what I told her, because it is what I want to tell you today, and because what happened after I told it to her is one of the most remarkable things I have witnessed in 50 years of pastoral ministry. I told her that in my experience, the week that feels like the final closing of the door is sometimes the week that precedes the opening. I told her that the darkness she was in did not feel like the darkness before the dawn, but that the darkness before the dawn never feels like the darkness before the dawn to the person inside it. I asked her to pray one more week, to give God one more week before she released the hope. And in that week, without any human orchestration, without any intervention on her part, without any event that she had arranged or anticipated, her husband called her and said something she had long since stopped expecting to hear. She called me the following Sunday and said, "It came in the darkest week." She said if I had stopped praying on Thursday, I would have stopped praying 2 days before the answer arrived. The third truth is this: the right on-time breakthrough always comes with more than was asked for. This is something I have observed so consistently that I now consider it one of the most reliable patterns in the whole of my experience of faith. When a breakthrough arrives after a long season of waiting, when it arrives in God's timing rather than the recipient's preferred timing, it almost never arrives as simply the thing that was asked for. It arrives as the thing that was asked for plus everything the waiting produced in the person who waited. And the combination of those two things together creates something that the immediate arrival of the thing alone could never have created. The breakthrough plus the character forged in the waiting, plus the depth of gratitude that only a long wait can produce, plus the wisdom about God and about faith and about one's own soul that the waiting generated equals something that is immeasurably more than the original prayer was asking for. And it is that something, that compound gift that the right on time breakthrough delivers, that makes the people who have experienced it look back on the waiting not with resentment but with a kind of reluctant, hard-won gratitude that they could not have imagined feeling when they were inside it. I think of Joseph one final time, because I always return to Joseph when I am trying to describe the right on time breakthrough to someone who is in the middle of a very long wait. Joseph received a dream at 17 years old. He waited in the specific conditions of slavery and imprisonment and forgotten promise for 13 years before the day arrived, when everything the dream had pointed toward was suddenly in a single day given to him. Not gradually, not in installments, all at once in a single day, in a manner so precisely orchestrated that the people who witnessed it had no human explanation for it. And what Joseph received on that day was not simply the position the dream had promised. He received the position plus 13 years of formation in exactly the qualities that position required. He received authority plus the character that could hold authority without being corrupted by it. He received power plus the specific quality of mercy that can only be developed in a person who has been powerless and who remembers what it felt like. He received the fulfillment of the dream plus the man the 13 years had made him. And that combination saved not only his own life but the lives of thousands of people whose futures were entirely dependent on the version of Joseph that 13 years of waiting had produced. The breakthrough was not late. It arrived at precisely the moment that produced the maximum benefit for the maximum number of people, at the intersection of Joseph's readiness and the world's need, which is always where God's timing places the breakthrough. Not a day early, not a day late, right on time. I want now to speak directly to the specific people I believe are listening to this message, in the specific seasons I believe they are in, because what I have been describing is not abstract and should not stay abstract when it has the capacity to reach into the actual texture of an actual life that is being actually lived in a real season of real waiting. If you are the person who has been waiting for a financial breakthrough, for the provision that has not yet arrived, for the debt to be lifted, for the opportunity that has been promised but has not yet materialized, for the door that everyone around you seems to be walking through while you are still standing in the hallway, I want to say this to you directly. The financial breakthrough you have been praying for is not being withheld because you have not done enough or believed enough or given enough. It is being held in the hands of a God who can see the exact moment its arrival will produce the maximum benefit and the minimum damage in your specific life and the lives of the people connected to you. And what I want to ask you is this: is the version of you who will receive that breakthrough the same version of you who first began praying for it? Or has the waiting made something in you that is better equipped to handle what the breakthrough contains? Because in my experience, the people who receive a significant financial breakthrough before the character to manage it has been formed are not better off than the people who waited until the formation was complete. They are often considerably worse off, and God knows that. And His love for you specifically includes His commitment to your being ready for what He sends. If you are the person who has been waiting for a relational breakthrough, for a marriage to be restored, for a prodigal to come home, for a family to be reunited, for a connection to be made that you have been believing for and that has not yet materialized in the form or on the timeline you imagined, I want to say this to you directly. Your prayer for that person or that relationship is not falling on deaf ears. The God who is working in your life is simultaneously working in the life of the person you are praying for, doing something in them that your prayer is contributing to in ways you cannot see and may not see until the day the answer arrives and you look back on the timeline and realize that the very events that felt like the closing of the door were actually the events that were preparing the heart of the person you were praying for to be in a position to receive what you were asking for them. Keep praying for them, specifically by name, for the specific thing you have been believing for, because your prayer for them is doing something in them that nothing else can do. And the day it completes what it was sent to do, the breakthrough will arrive, right on time. If you are the person who has been waiting for a breakthrough in your calling, for the door that was promised to open, for the moment when the thing God placed in you finds its way into the world in the form it was designed to take, for the ministry or the mission or the creative work or the purpose that you can feel inside you, but cannot yet find the means to express, or the platform to express it from, I want to say this to you directly. The calling does not go away. The thing God placed in you before you were born does not expire because the timeline you expected for its expression has passed. You have not missed the window. There is no window in God's economy that closes on a calling that He placed. The door will open, and when it opens, it will open in a way that is specifically suited to the person you will be. When it opens rather than the person you were when you first believed it would open. And the person you are becoming in the waiting is not a lesser version of the person you would have been if the door had opened earlier. In almost every case I have witnessed, it is a more complete version, a more grounded version, a more genuinely capable version, the version that can sustain what the open door leads to, rather than simply stepping through it and discovering too late that the room on the other side required more than you had brought to it. Now I want you to say something. And I want you to say it not as a formula and not as a spiritual performance, but as the most honest declaration you have made in a long time, the declaration of a person who has decided in this specific moment to choose the perspective of right on time over the feeling of being late. Say, my breakthrough has not passed me by. Say, it is not running behind schedule. Say, I have not been forgotten and I have not been overlooked and I have not been skipped. Say, the God who set the timing of my breakthrough can see what I cannot see from inside this waiting. Say, what looks like delay from where I am standing looks like precision from where he is standing. Say, I am not the same person who first began praying for this. Say, the waiting has made something in me that the breakthrough needs me to have before it arrives. Say, I am ready to receive it in whatever form God chooses to send it. Say, I released a specific picture of what I thought the breakthrough was going to look like, and I opened my hands to receive it in the form He designed rather than the form I imagined. And say this final declaration with everything you have. Say, my breakthrough is not late. It is right on time. And I choose to trust that today, not because the evidence supports it, but because the God behind the promise does. Father, I come before you now, on behalf of every person who has been listening to this message from inside a waiting season that has lasted longer than they expected and cost more than they anticipated. I ask that you would meet each of them in this moment, not with an immediate change in their circumstances, though that may come, but with a change in their perspective, a shift from the limited vantage point of the person inside the waiting to something closer to the vantage point of the God who designed the waiting with specific intention and specific love. I ask that you would remind every person listening today of the specific ways you have been faithful to them in previous seasons, the previous times you came through in a way that they could not have anticipated, and that they might have given up on if they had stopped praying 1 week, or 1 month, or 1 prayer earlier. Let those memories rise up now as the evidence that the faithfulness you demonstrated then is the same faithfulness you are exercising now, even if it is not yet visible. For the one waiting on financial breakthrough, speak peace to the anxiety of the numbers, and let them feel today the specific confidence of a person who is under the care of a God who has already seen the solution and is bringing them to it. For the one waiting on relational restoration, speak peace to the ache of the distance, and let them feel today the specific assurance that their prayer for the person they love is working in places they cannot see, and will produce results they cannot yet imagine. For the one waiting on the breakthrough of their calling, speak peace to the restlessness of gifting that has not yet found its full expression, and let them feel today the specific conviction that what God placed in them has not been forgotten and will not go to waste. For the one who is simply tired, who has been carrying the hope for so long that the carrying has become its own kind of burden, let them feel in this moment the relief of a person who has handed the weight to hands that are more capable of holding it. Let them rest from the management of the outcome and discover what it feels like to simply trust the one who is managing it for them. We thank you that the breakthrough is coming, not because we can see it, but because you said it, and your word does not return to you empty. It accomplishes the purpose for which you sent it. And the purpose for which you sent the promise that each person listening is still holding is still very much in the process of being accomplished. We trust you with the timing. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to leave you with this: the greatest breakthroughs in the history of faith, the ones that became the testimonies that shaped generations, the ones that people are still telling thousands of years after they happened, were not the breakthroughs that arrived on the recipient's preferred schedule. They were the breakthroughs that arrived at the intersection of the recipient's complete readiness and God's sovereign timing, right on time at the moment of maximum impact, for the maximum number of people, in the exact form required by the exact situation that existed at the exact moment of arrival. Not early, not late, right on time. Your breakthrough is in that category. You do not feel like it. The waiting does not feel like it. The evidence does not support it. But the God who set the timing has never once been wrong about when, and He is not starting with you. Subscribe to Faith Rising for a new message every morning at 7, because tomorrow's message may be the one that carries you through the specific day of waiting that still lies between you and the morning your breakthrough arrives. Leave a comment below and tell me, how long have you been waiting, and what has the waiting taught you that nothing else could have taught you? Because I believe your honesty in the comments might be the thing that keeps someone else going today. Faith Rising. Rise every day in faith.